Welcome back to SoberKart. Let's go ahead and talk about what is recently the most controversial part of Mario Kart World, the intermissions, or the routes between tracks. Some people have been calling them boring, or even outright straight line simulators where bagging seems to be the only way to legitimately win consistently, but I'm here to say not all of them deserve the hate. I have spent a couple dozen of hours racing all 202 of these intermission routes, both directions, multiple times each, and with the help of the SoberKart community, I've broken them down into a full tier list from S to F, and yes, I said a 202. That's more routes than there are characters in Smash Brothers. In this video, we're just not going to show every single intermission one by one. That would just take far too long. Instead, I'll show highlights from the best, some lowlights from the worst, and explain why each route landed where it did. We'll cover what makes good intermissions work, from technical sections, unique mechanics, to full-length track endings that basically give you two tracks in one. And yeah, I'll also show you the ones where it straight out feels like Nintendo just forgot to finish the track. But first, I would like to give credit where it's due. There are some genuinely great intermissions in this game, routes that are not only fun, but also competitive, and even better than a few of the actual 3-lap tracks. Let's go ahead and start with what made the S tier. The best of the best. Now, let me explain my thought process here, because ranking all 202 tracks isn't just about which ones look cool or have nostalgic music. While aesthetics and vibes definitely play a role here, I approach this from a mostly competitive standpoint. Ever since Nintendo's update changed how tracks are selected online, making 3-lap courses harder to get, we're all racing these intermission tracks more than ever before, so this list isn't just for fun, it's practical. If you want to actually enjoy your worldwides, you need to know which of these intermissions are actually worth picking. And one of the clear advantages some of these routes have, they end with full track segments. If a route lets you play through most or all of DK Spaceport, Peach Beach, or Rainbow Road, it's basically two tracks in one, and it's an easy boost in value. But that's not all. I also rank these based on strategy. Routes where front running is viable and where skill expression matters. Where you don't have to bag every time just to have a chance at the top spots. If a route only rewards sandbagging, it's going to struggle to make it to the top tiers, but we'll get more into that later. For now, here are the intermission routes that truly hold their weight, the ones that can compete with full tracks and actually make your worldwides more fun, not less. 7 of the 19 S-tier tracks ended in either Peach Beach, DK Spaceport, or Rainbow Road. But I really wanted to look at the intermissions themselves as a whole, not just where they end. So that's the reason why not all of the tracks that end on these placements actually made the S tier. Most of the other ones are in either A or B tier, but we'll get to those here in just a second. Every single one of these 19 tracks feel like a legitimate track and should be picked online at every opportunity that you get. It will avoid some headaches in the future, so these are the ones you probably should memorize. Moving on to A tier, and honestly, these 36 tracks are still done very right. If these show up in worldwides, I'm not upset. In fact, I'm actively looking for these just as much as S tier. What separates them from S tier usually comes down to 3 things: bigger stream cuts, less consistent engagement, and slightly lower overall polish. A lot of these intermissions have long stretches that favor back runners, or just don't have enough enemies, trick ramps, or chaos to keep you 100% dialed in from start to finish. That being said, they're still really fun, and more importantly, they make you think. These are the routes that force you to actually race, where every corner, item pool, and route decision will matter. Some of these will let you blast through tornadoes and skip a bunch of the straightaways. Some have you racing iconic tracks in reverse, and one even lets you drive through an entirely alternate version of Shy Guy Bazaar, which most of us are now calling Daisy's Palace. If you haven't tried that one, you're missing out. This tier is where you'll find the most variety in gameplay styles, and honestly, if the rest of the intermission routes were even close to this quality, the online complaints would probably disappear. These are the kinds of routes that show what Mario Kart World could be if every track was built with this much care. If you're someone who wants more than just chaos, if you're looking for a real Mario Kart experience in every race, these are the routes that you should be locking in. And 28 tracks made it into B tier. And if you're a casual player, you'll probably really enjoy every single one of these. They're fun, chaotic enough, and still offer some solid Mario Kart action. But for competitive players, this is where things start to slip. The main issues are usually too many straightaways or tracks that are heavily reliant on bagging as the main strategy to place consistently. There's usually one or two standout moments per route, either a cool starting section, a helicopter drop, speedboat ride, maybe a cool finish before you get to the track, but the overall layouts start to feel a little less complete. A lot of these could have easily been in A tier if they just had more engagement, more enemies, more boost ramps, tighter sections. Instead, you'll find stretches where not much is going on, and it becomes more about holding on to mushrooms than making smart race decisions. That said, I still enjoy these races. I'm never upset when they show up in the rotation, but it's also around this point that I start to understand some of the criticism you've probably seen online. Because here's the truth. The 30 normal track layouts in this game, or at least most of them, are among the best Mario Kart has ever had. So when you compare any of these in-between routes to these top-tier masterpieces, yeah, some of these just don't stand a chance. They aren't necessarily bad, they're just not great enough to compare. And that contrast is more noticeable than ever. Still, B tier is nothing to be ashamed of. These are solid, just not quite essential. The hardest one in this tier to rank was Faraway Oasis to Crown City, and also in reverse, because this bridge has the level of chaos that most routes should have. The level of traffic and boost panels, along with different grind rail paths and glider rings, make for a very fun track. However, the community voted and it landed as a high B tier due to how straight it was. Still, Nintendo needs this vibe across many of the other routes in my opinion. The C tier is home to the largest chunk of intermission routes. 59 total made the cut here. Most of these tracks will still be found enjoyable from the casual community, and many have fun parts either in the beginning, middle, or end. But overall, the route is missing the completion level seen in the higher rated tiers. You'll likely still have a good time with these routes if you're just hopping in with friends, not thinking too hard, and vibing with the scenery. But for competitive racers, this is where strategy starts to fall off. Most of the time, these routes should be avoided in worldwides unless you need a break from racing, as almost all of these can be raced with one hand in the back of the pack till the final shortcuts before becoming fully engaged and slingshot to the front. Overall, these are very average tracks. That being said, there are still some decent routes in here, especially if you're in a laid-back mood or just want to race something different. And then we get to D tier. There are 44 routes here, and they're about as bad as it gets outside the handful that are so bad that tank the system's credibility so much I had to create an F tier to put them into. But these routes are the ones that give the intermissions a bad name. Many of these not only are showcased in the Grand Prix lineups, but also seem to be the one that keeps getting picked online more often than not. To me, it does not make sense why Nintendo wanted to showcase these as routes they're so proud of. Did Nintendo have two different teams working on these intermissions? One group making the great routes, and the other with more seniority deciding which ones made the cut to showcase events? Because that's kind of what it feels like. These D tier routes usually fall into one of the three categories: too long, too boring, or missing almost everything that makes a Mario Kart track feel alive. It's tracks like these, the ones where you drive in nearly a straight line for 45 seconds with no enemies and no shortcuts, that really tank the whole system's credibility. And if these 44 weren't bad enough, they're joined by 16 more in the F tier. That's 60 routes total, nearly a third of all intermissions, dragging down the rest. I honestly think if these 60 tracks didn't exist, the online sentiment around intermissions would completely change. Some of these could be salvaged. A few enemies here, a shortcut there. A good example of this is the Big Donut area. that we get to race through every time that we go up to Bowser's Castles or leaving it. Bowser's Castle, one of the greatest tracks in the game, but all the intermissions leading up to it, come on. The first time you drive through it, it's visually awesome. Feels like something special, and then nothing. One boom boom on each side, no pressure, no challenge. It's like Nintendo started something, got halfway through, and said, good enough. I hope it's just the fact that Nintendo forgot to finish these sections, because they had to justify an $80 price tag on the idea that they have been developing this game for over 8 years. If the first time I ever went to the gym was 25 years ago, but I haven't been for the last 5, can I say I've been going to the gym for 25 years? This could have been justified anyway, that they wanted, to be honest. You know, an $80 music album that comes with a free game, and I think that idea would have sold just fine. But regardless, Nintendo needs to fix these routes as soon as possible, along with a few other aspects about this game, but I will save that for the full review video I'm working on, considering I have 100% of this game. Overall, you should all know by now that I think this game is truly amazing and some of the most fun I have ever had. If you would like a downloadable version of the full tier list, complete with all 202 intermission routes, head over to the SoberKart Discord. I will have it pinned in the links tab for easy access, whether you're debating with friends or just want to keep track of your own picks. Also, let me know in the comments if you want a deeper dive into any of these specific tiers in a future video, especially if you're curious about the lower tiers or want a full breakdown of routes that made it into the S. I kept this video as tight as I could since it covers so much, but I'd be happy to expand if there's interest. I hope I didn't upset anyone too much with where their favorite routes landed, and honestly, if you feel strongly that a certain route should have been placed in a different tier, please let me know, because this was a community vote. I took things from the SoberKart crew, different live streams, and a lot of comments on this last video of ours. But for the most part, I do agree with where almost every single one of these landed from a competitive perspective. Visuals were not enough here to save a track. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's arbitrary to rank 202 different routes because this could be looked at from a completely different lens. But I hope this list helps, and it truly took me a long time. I couldn't justify ranking them legitimately if I only raced them once, so this took a lot of work. If you appreciated this list, make sure to like this video as it helps way more than you know. Truly is a free donation. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you would like to see more content like this. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end of this video, and I will see you all on the track. Let's go.